I wanted to be in a career that, where I was able to help people with their health and with their fitness, because I came from a sports background, and I was very interested in health. So I always had the two together, and again, they were not separate. It was all one thing, really. And um, and so I kept going, and eventually got into practice and started working with a variety of different patients, some of whom were local competitive athletes, 5K runners, 10K runners. And gradually, I realized that, and many of them were injured. That's why they came to see me. I've got this knee problem. Okay, let's take a look. Let's look at let's look at the big picture. Let's look at what you're eating. Let's look at how you're training. Look at how other stresses affect you. And I realized early on that I needed to participate in all the things they were doing. I needed to participate in particular in their training, because their training was hurting their body, and therefore adversely affecting their performance, their athletic performance. So I started training people as part of what I did, not as a coach, because coaches, it's an isolated thing. I did all of these different things. I looked at their training and their competitive goals, and what they ate and what they didn't eat, and what they drank, and what they did, what kind of work they did, their family, did they have a family, and all of this stuff. And it really had to be put together and condensed. And when they say, well, I want to do this from an athletic standpoint, I want to run a marathon, I might think, well, this guy can't run a marathon because he's working 60 hours a week. He's got, a family with 3 kids, and all these other social activities. How in the world is he going to run a marathon with the kind of training he's going to have to do? So I sort of, that's where I went. And gradually I started seeing more different types of athletes. In the beginning, it was the running boom was booming. And so a lot, being in the New York City suburbs, I saw a lot of runners. But gradually started seeing more and more elite athletes, and then professional athletes, and then athletes in other sports, virtually all sports I've been in, and other things too. I worked in corporate fitness, helping CEOs. I worked in politics. I worked in it's a boring bio, but that's it. So I've done research, clinical research and scientific research. I have a lot of papers out there and in the journals, and I've written a bunch of books. And I have fun. And it got to the point where people wanted me to help them, and they were sponsored by companies that were not happy with the relationship between the athlete and me, because of the things I would say about certain dietary supplements or sports products. And so it was sort of an under the table thing. And I'm not going to mention any of those names, but it was sad. It was sad that the big business of sports had that much power over athletes. But it was, hey, you do what we say or we're not going to pay you. I mean, for me, I didn't need the notoriety that I worked with so-and-so or so-and-so. I just wanted to help somebody, and they were grateful. And so, it was interesting to see that psychological aspect, that social aspect, the business aspect. of sports, but it occurred in business. It occurred in politics, of course. It occurred in the military. I mean, it was everywhere. The biggest problem is the big companies that were advertising in everywhere in society, but sports in particular. And it's sad that money has that much power. No surprise, and we have to navigate through that maze and that jungle because we are each an individual, and I have to navigate through with what I want to do, and you do, and our listeners have to navigate through if they want to be healthier and if they want to be a better human performer. They need to navigate through rather than listen to what some business has to say because they're selling a product.